Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And I have with me a good friend of mine, comic creator, board game designer, novelist, Chris Brown, the person, not the rapper. I want to make that crystal clear. The person, not the rapper. So welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's going on, bud? It's been like forever and 3 days.
Well, that happens. That happens. You know, the galaxy is a dark, long place to be in, or something along those lines. But at least my roommate's not Sam Bankman-Fried. At least my roommate is not Sam Bankman-Fried in Brooklyn.
No, it's a diddler of a pickle right there. You know what I'm saying? It's
I'm just saying. There is a television show to be made about this.
And definitely an odd couple.
The Odd Couple in prison. The next season on The Odd Couple.
Exactly.
Go to prison. You just see Felix cleaning it. Anyway, enough about that. Obviously, enough about the jokes. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're kind of the person behind Slaughterville, which we're going to get into. But why don't you give us a basic premise of Slaughterville? Because it is a board game. It is a comic. It is a choose your own RPG type adventure game / book. It's also now a novel. There's some expansion packs. So for those who are saying what Slaughterville, or I don't remember Slaughterville, what is Slaughterville? Because it is all encompassing on many different faucets.
Sure. The TLDR of it is it's Slaughterville, the town, is where all of your favorite horror movies take place, and with legally distinct from, yet very similar to popular horror films and tropes that you're used to. So with the board game, you're able to build the town and you're able to explore. With the RPG, you can get more in depth, obviously, with a role-playing game, and you build your own characters and you explore your own town. You create it. The graphic novels are a shorthand form of the novel itself, which is 357 pages. And the novel is taking a look at what would happen if I were playing the game.
Cool. So let's just table that, because I want to get into that in a second.
Sure.
But obviously, with the board game, you know, horror games, RPGs are very interesting. I know Catan. I know Shadows over Camelot. I forget the island game where it's you against the island, and that's always fun. And then there's the desert sequel or the prequel, I forget which. But RPG games are complicated to some degree, because depending on how to build it, you don't want to make it so that it's too easy, and you don't make it that it's impossible to beat, but also what happens with replayability. And that's what's interesting about your game. And so what is that like to even figure out, hey, how to build a mechanically working game, if that makes any sense, or correctly mechanically working game? Because I'll give you an example, and I don't know if you know Resident Evil 4, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Some people don't know, or at least they didn't know at first, that Resident Evil 4, depending on how you're playing, the game has a adjustment factor on easy or hard. That if you're struggling in the game actually becomes easier. So if you've died in the same area like 90 times, the game will actually become easier for you. But then if you're slaying it and going too fast through it, or you're killing everything with ease, the game's actually going to become harder, or there's going to be less item drops. And that's a mechanically functioning game that's adjusting to the player. Not perfectly, but close enough, right? So what is that like with the board game? Because the few times that I've played, and I'm not saying I'm an expert at this, you know, there is mechanically functioning things in that game that no game is ever going to be the same.
No. It shouldn't be anyway, because we have about 80 characters now for you to play as. But the entire thing is meant to be cooperative, except for one villain. That's a competitive, but that's the unique thing about this, is that you have all of these different villains that you can go up against, and each one of those villains is a different gameplay style and a different way to experience the town. And the AI of it is already mapped out to balance itself depending on how many players there are. So that's how we did it with this one. It is based on the number of players. It can get it'll get more difficult, or I should say it'll balance itself with, the more players you have or the fewer players. Because you can play it solo if you wish.
So interesting. That's so
Thanks.
interesting. Because I've never played a game solo, right?
Really?
Like it's not my jam. I'm a Catan guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then in an RPG, like I've never played solo, right? I've read rule books on solo. I've built boards solo just to see what it would be, and I was doing something else. Hey, if you're making Cupcake Catan, you need to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out the fastest way how to do it was to build a Catan board and then mimic it in cupcakes.
Nice. I saw them and I thought about doing it myself. I'm not gonna lie.
It was great.
It looks pretty cool.
It was a lot of fun to do it. I did gummy bears and licorice was like the roads.
Did you?
And it was great.
Should have sent me a picture. I wish I could have seen that.
Oh, it's on my Facebook wall somewhere. A lot of fun. It's not even hard to do it. And I made like a whole YouTube video about it. And I did it. I said, this is how you do it, guys. Like it's gonna cost you like $30 to build a whole Catan board. And you get to eat it. It was great. But no, getting back to this though. So, and then to even dive further into this, because I think it's really interesting, is that even the expansion of it and building it out and then building out an ultimate edition and even just throwing it out into the wild too, because the board game is what started everything. And so even what is that like? Because you've done well with it between the first one, the sequel, which was an expansion. I think you did a third expansion, and then you did an ultimate edition, which is really cool too. And so what is that like also? Because this isn't exactly a cheap game for lack of, especially the ultimate edition.
Right. No, I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, no, that the director's cut, the giant box, I think you have one of them, the giant one, it is like $120. And I still, one of the hardest things I have to tell people is when they contact me, they're like, do you have that yet? I'm like, I'm out of stock, man. Everybody bought it. I mean, I am sold out, but I keep getting people wanting it, and I'm tempted to run another Kickstarter now, Chris, just to fund.
I have to ask the question here. There was about 6 of them missing, weren't there, from Customs?
Customs and I are not friendly because of this project. Yeah, let's put it that way. It was 200 copies of the game were gone. 200 copies times $1,220. Yeah. Customs and I are going to have words one day.
But I was making the joke that they just wanted to play it.
Oh, I don't blame them. I don't blame them, but no, like I said, 200 copies went missing.
So let's actually talk about that though, because if you can't keep something in stock, and this is something that I have an issue with in my business, and I'm curious how you feel, is that I know when to stop. So I sold out of something, and then I reordered it while it was still active, and then I sold out of that one, and it was still active for me to reorder in cards. But I said, you know what, I'm gonna just take a win. Yeah. Because I said, look, I have 50 of these. I'm not interested in killing myself and spending another $500 for 25 copies and going up from 500, which was a risk, selling out of that. My mom's like, you're a moron and you're an idiot. I say, hey, Mom, I just paid $700. Then I rebought it. She's like, why'd you do that? I just made another $400. and then I realized that I should stop at 1,000, and I'll have a clean windfall of like probably like $350 after eBay fees and taxes. So But what is that like? Because obviously everybody wants it. A bunch of people want it, but do you redo it? Do you order more of these? Because it's not a collector's item.
No, no, no. It's just it's a board game that people seem to like. I put everything into that one where
Because you
it
you
has a
understand the
neoprene
question I'm
mat. It
asking.
has.
I mean, you understand the question I'm asking is that
Mhm.
you want to go order another 200 of these or 300 of these, and then all of a sudden 250 buy, but now you're left with 50, and now you have
Mhm.
50 inventory, and that's a real big issue, I think, right now, because I have that problem in my business. Is what is the right inventory number, and what is also the right price number?
Right.
So I'll buy 25 of a card for $4 a card, and if I'm left with 4 cards, but I'm selling those cards for $10 a piece, yeah, I'm left with 4 that I can't sell, but I made $50.
Mhm.
And this is something that I'm always struggling with, and I don't think it's just a board game problem.
No.
It's a comic book problem, it's a novel problem, it's a stock problem collectively. And so what is that like for you to figure
Mhm.
that out? Because and then also, are you gonna kickstart another version of this or Indiegogo it or backer kit it too? Because that also solves an inventory problem to some degree.
And that is honestly the way I have to look at this because, like you said, if you get you have the initial momentum, and then you have the secondary, which, depending on the popularity of the product, is either going to be just as or just under what was asked for before. And now with games, you have to do a 500 minimum order quantity. So, and like you said, if I sell 100 of them, am I going to sit around with 400 of that giant box in the warehouse? And so I would do just like you mentioned, um, a Kickstarter, some kind of crowdfunding for it in order to restock. And this way you could guarantee the sales through the crowdfunding, and it also builds momentum for the next project. So that's the only
So
way I would. That's the only way I would do it. Could I do it? Could I just pay for it? Probably, but the point is, I want to make sure that they're going to sell and get out of here.
no, because I find this so interesting, right? Because I think this is a problem, right? When you're producing something. So I'm not producing anything in my business. All I'm producing for those who know in my business is that I just buy an item and then I sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have an eye for items, rare items, items that have low print runs, and I scoop up things really, really effectively, and then I wait and I let it appreciate and mature, which is kind of what I do. But again, when you're crowdfunding, but it's also tricky because if you're doing a comic, can you reissue out an issue one on Kickstarter?
That's a kicker, isn't it? Because then people that are the initial collectors are like, "Well, mine is supposed to be first print. What makes this one different so that mine is still unique?" And that was the whole thing with uh, when Eric July put all of his books down for five. Well, those three, I think, yeah, the first three books down for $5 a piece. That did piss a lot of people off because they just paid 35 for them, and now he's dumping them for $5 a pop. I bought all three of them for $5 a piece, by the way. And so if you don't honor the customers that way by keeping exclusives exclusive or making the reprint something that will um, either match or uh, offer something different to all the backers, then well, they're just probably not going to come back to you again.
Do you feel though that that is a comic book problem or a
Or
novel problem versus a board game? Because I'll be honest with you, I mean, I don't view the director's cut of Slaughterville as being valuable as a collector's item. I mean, it could be. I mean, board games can go up in value. They,
right,
they,
right.
they can. Shadows over Camelot is a good example of that.
Hmm.
That game's a pain in the ass to find, and but at the same time, I don't think most board games go up in value.
Hmm.
So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here because I'm not in this field, but I'm curious how you feel about it because I think a board game is a little bit different. It's kind of like if you reshoot out, like my dad's into photography, and if a tripod came out on Kickstarter, I don't think that a first edition ball head tripod if it's reissued out on Kickstarter and a new Kickstarter, oh man, I got the first one.
Mhm.
I don't think it's that. Is my point. So
Right.
like, but I'm curious how you feel, because is Kickstarter even going to allow you to do it? And
Um,
that's an interesting discussion too, right?
the crowdfunders will allow you to do reprints. And no, you're right. It's a lot different with board games and things that are expected to be reprinted versus the comics, which are expected to be more exclusive or to change with each iteration. Like I just looked it up now, and my original, the original Slaughterville that I was selling is now up on eBay for $500. I don't even have a copy of that, by the way. I just I'm here to sell, right? But yes, with novels again, it's the same thing. You're expected to reprint. So it's with comics, people are much more collector mind. Is that how you would say it? Collector mindseted.
Collector mindset, collectibles.
Yeah, they're more into the. It has to be unique for me so that I can say, look what I got, as opposed to with the novels and the games and things where it's like, just make more, which again is what I plan to do.
No, I find this interesting because again, I am not the expert in board
Mm-hmm.
games. I mean, I don't know who's paying $500 for a first copy of Slaughterville. No, nothing against you, right? But again,
Right away,
though,
you kick me in the junk right away.
no. But you get where I'm going with this, right? So like, I'll
Mhm.
go and I'll pick up a baseball card that has only 400 of them printed, right? That
Right.
in a sense has scarcity, and so people are willing to spend, $10 for it. But if a card, like, I have cards that only have 300 print runs, right? I have cards that
Yeah.
only have 99 print runs that sell for like 500. I have cards that only have 5 of them in the world that sell for almost 700.
Really?
So I pull some cool shit. I pulled Ben Rice. He hit 3 home runs in a game. I pulled a 3 out of 5 on that card. That's like a $600 card.
Hmm.
I pulled Juan Soto's the youngest player to hit against home runs against all 32 teams. Again, that's like a $400 or $500 card.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making is that I just pulled the Dylan Cruz card. That's like a $300 card. I buy a lot of cars. That's why I pull a lot of stuff. My pull ratio is maybe like a 6% pull ratio on high end cards.
Hmm.
But I'm also spending probably anywhere from 20 to 40,000 a year. So I have an expensive card collection. Let's just leave it at that. A bunch of that stuff's not for sale too. So don't ask. One of these days I'm gonna show people my binders. My binder, holy fucking shit, dude! How do you have such an expensive binder? Like, but I find it interesting, this whole thing, and also even just figuring out how to price it out, because that's the other thing that I think is a really big problem. And I'm curious how you think about this before we get to the graphic novels and then eventually to the novel. But like, what is that like? Because I feel like a lot of people in comics suck with money.
Oh yeah.
Hard. Like
Yeah.
and I'm being
Like
nice
a
when I
P
say,
Diddy party.
yeah, like a P Diddy party. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Snoop Dogg was nowhere to be found.
Mm.
I'm so sorry. I
You
can't
can see
help
him
it.
under the blanket. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He was busy out on the street
Mm-hmm.
with Ice-T and Dr. Dre doing something in California that is now legal that wasn't legal at the time. But anyway, I have like 15 P. Diddy jokes. Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna have a field day.
There were a lot of things 15 at P Diddy's thing. But that's a whole other thing.
15
As
reasons not to hang out with P. Diddy. I can tell you all 15 of them, but you know.
Mm-hmm. Poor Bieber. Never thought I would pity Justin Bieber. Sorry, my brain will get distracted here.
He got a Ferrari out of the deal.
It's true. But as far as how to price anything, really, of course, naturally, let's figure out what your costs are. Go ahead.
Oh no, pricing is a big thing, and even how to fund it and how to find capital because that's a huge thing right now. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I've gotten into debates with people where people are saying create in comics right now, creativity is dead. And I don't think creativity is dead at all. I think it's quite the opposite. I think creativity is at its height. I think people are producing less or engaging less, or they're struggling, not because of creativity, but because there's just less fucking money right
Well, that's what I was going to get at. That was one of the things I was going to get at. Is, as we mentioned earlier, there isn't the disposable income that there used to be because of the economic downturn that we've had, and because people have to worry more about, well, food, rent, clothing, and everything else. They don't have as much to spend on incidentals or luxury or hobby buys as they used to. So they're more fickle with what they spend their money on. And I've seen it because I've made $30-some thousand on projects, only to have things drastically fall in the last couple of years. And it's go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Did you also feel, because this is my take, and obviously I've had a shift in my business where I'm moving to sports. I think that with certain players and certain philosophies and certain components, I can do better and I will have more longevity. And I will also have a safer value store. Is what I found, especially on Kickstarter, is that if I just like the product and I'm looking at it just because I want to read it, or I like the concept, or I like the cosplay, or whatever I like on the cover, or I like a particular artist, there's certain covers that I just love the art, right? I just love it. I'm like, oh my God, that's just perfect for Halloween, right? I don't even know who the artist is. The artist was a nobody, but I'm like, that's the best cover on it for $10. That's a home run, right? So on that position, but I'm also looking at value and I'm saying, cool, if I buy 5 of these books, are they going to go up in value? And what I'm finding is that in comics, and I don't know if this is a factor for you, but do you feel that people have also had experiences where books are delayed, they take forever, don't meet expectation, the cover is not what the interior looks like, and on top of that, all of a sudden, the book doesn't retain any value. And people are saying, I just spent $20 and it's worth 10. And because I'm going to say something that's my opinion, but I think it's true to some degree. Everybody at some point will unload part of their collection in comics. Whether you are unloading it because you are a trader, or you're an investor, or you got a newborn and your wife is encouraging you to take the room because baby Johnny's on the way. So at some point, and maybe people are saying, holy shit, I'm trying to unload my books, and I bought this book for 30 and it's worth 10.
Yeah.
And it's a hard 10 to sell. So I don't know if that's also part of it, because people are now, I'm 31, right? In the next 3-4 years, I'm going to be starting a family, if not sooner. And what happens with all my shit? And so I think that's part of it too, is that books just aren't maintaining value. And I'm having a hard time in comics right now. I'm having a really hard time selling books. And I don't think I'm alone. So I don't know. I don't know if that's also a factor, but I'm curious what you think.
I've never been one that does like the multi covers that like many do. And in fact, I think I only had one cover on my last one, because I think it falsely inflates the quality of the book, because you can get something, like you said, with the best cover in the world, but if the interior's junk, I mean, what's the point? I've seen some, but I come at it from a different side because I'm not an artist. Okay, the art is not as important to me. So I don't get enamored with covers. I get hooked on stories. And if your story is terrible in your book, no matter what your art's like, I'm just going to ignore it. For instance, I was at the recent convention, comic book convention in Harrisburg, and I got this. Okay. This is how did the guy say it? It is the Rapture seen from the Jewish perspective. So it's an adventure comedy, he said. So I'm like, I gotta pick that up. So I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but yeah. So that's what I go for is the interesting stories, as opposed to, like you were saying, you want this book because of that cover. You love that cover, that art. So I look at it from a different side. So we're both still getting the books, but we're getting them for different reasons. If that makes sense.
No, I'm just saying that I think that there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's tricky. But I'm just curious how you figure it out, because again, right now, as a buyer and a reseller and somebody who runs a business, and I buy at wholesale, I buy at regular retail, I buy in bulk, just everything. I have to really pick and choose what I'm doing, and I also have to say, can I hold the debt? I mean, I'm in a position that I have money, and I have money coming in, and I have purposely set up income earners to cover for positions, and I don't have retained earnings in my business, but I have retained investments that produce capital. So I've taken a different approach to the business health, which I think is actually more efficient. But that's not the point. But I have to say, cool. Can I, if I buy this item and none of them sell, can I hold this item for 3 years without any damage to me? And a lot of items I can, and a lot of things I can. And then sometimes, like, I have to punt an item. And I just said, look, I would love to buy this card, but I can't do it. I can't absorb the debt. I can't take the risk. And it's so complicated. And I think that's a real big issue. And I also, people are saying that, Kickstarters are off the COVID bump, and I've heard that, but I think they've been off the COVID bump for a while.
Yeah. One of the nice things about what you're doing with the sports cards is those athletes, if they're any good, that card is still going to be worth something, even if they get in a car accident and Paul Walker themselves. What's that?
It goes up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As opposed to somebody's comics, if they have 2 issues and then they bounce out, or they don't do anymore, chances are those are going to go down if people were looking forward to a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th one.
Most sports cards, if the athlete's good and they don't do something stupid, right? So Henry, I forget the guy in Vegas who got into a car crash and then killed somebody in his Corvette. That card's not going up. But if Victor Cruz or OBJ has a shitty game, his car's not going down. Or if he gets into a car crash, or he is going fishing and he falls off the boat and he looks like a fool, his car's not going down.
Right. But I'll counter that with I'll counter that with Michael Vick and OJ Simpson. Theirs didn't. I'm sure they went up in value.
I mean, the Bronco card definitely went up in value.
I'm just saying.
I don't know about Michael Vick. OJ, without a doubt, because OJ was an unbelievable player. Unbelievable. But Brandon Crawford, or Brandon, the guy on the Red Sox who's in prison now, his card isn't really going up in value. Right. So, but I agree about the OJ. I agree about there's a bunch. That Jerry Kuzman is another one who went to jail. Dallas Strawberry, without a doubt. I mean, Doc Gooden, without a doubt. Keith Hernandez, when he was doing cocaine. I mean, come on. That there was nothing bad. It was that those cards and those rookie cards, without a doubt, go up in value, and they're still going up in value because they're great.
And I just realized something. It's been a while since I talked to you. I forgot to ask if you were okay. when you heard that the whole T Swift Kelsey is a programmed publicity stunt. Are you all right? I know your heart was into it. You were
What do
in.
you mean? What do you mean? It's not. It's real. Love's in the air. Oh, good. It's all good.
Sure.
Supposedly, somebody said there was a contingency plan that they were going to break up on the 23rd. The 23rd passed. They're not broken up yet.
Not yet. Oh, they had to move it, I guess. Yeah.
I'm just saying that I think they understand there's an election and that there's a three-peat Super Bowl on the line here. Now, one of those things is more important than the other.
Yeah.
We know which one's more important.
T-Swift's next album.
Know, and I think you know, clearly the Chiefs winning a third Super Bowl back-to-back is the most important thing on the planet.
Unless the Patriots take it.
No, see, America needs an enemy, an internal enemy. And if the Chiefs do it, they become the new dynasty, which allows the Patriots to build in secrecy. I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy theory here. But the Patriots still have a little shine left on them, and they need to just get under the wire so they can have a great quarterback develop in a super secret stadium in New England. Out in the open where 80,000 people can see that quarterback develop in secrecy. But yeah, so I digress. I have a theory here, and then just give it 5 years, and when it happens, you're like, I knew it was coming. 5 Super Bowls. Everybody hates the Chiefs. New England's doing this thing over here. I'm a Giants fan. I know we're fucked for years. I know it. I'm okay. But Bo Nix might get me laid, but that's not the point here. Let's just say if I pull a very valuable Bo Nix card, it will get me laid. But anyway, so yes. I am absolutely fine. I actually think that they're a pretty good couple. I don't buy that it's publicity. because there are many better people than Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce does not come baggage free. Let's if we're gonna really call this politically, Travis Kelce is not baggage free for Taylor Swift. I don't want to get too political here, but it's not that hard to figure it out. The Chiefs are a purple team. They are not a blue or a red team. But they are more purple and they lean red as an organization, without a doubt. It's crystal clear. If you don't know Patrick Mahomes' politics, you are living under a rock.
I haven't watched a minute of football in like 8 years.
Patrick Mahomes,
I would be under that rock.
Patrick Mahomes' wife is a big Trump supporter.
Okay.
And Harrison Butker is very much an evangelical Christian who got a lot of heat for saying a lot of things at like an evangelical, college graduation that the left went ape shit on. So this isn't hard to figure out where Patrick Mahomes stands.
Right.
He just doesn't speak about it. It's also not that hard to figure out where Jason Tatum stands. Jason Tatum is very much pro-life. And a lot of athletes are actually pro-life. Aaron Judge, I would imagine, is pro-life too. Because Aaron Judge was adopted. It's not that hard to figure out. But I digress. We don't have to get too much into that. I'm not saying anything that's even that controversial. I'm not.
No.
Again, you have to take stock of what you got. But anyway, I want to get into the graphic novels because we're on that topic and you mentioned it. So what is that like? Because doing the board games is one thing, but the graphic novels are a whole different sector.
Yeah, it's all of these have a different mindset that you have to get into, because each one is a different way of expressing whatever story it is you're trying to tell. And man, going into those graphic novels, I didn't realize exactly, I did 3 of them now, but at the beginning, I did not realize how much of a uh, different kind of script and story you have to write, because you're not writing for pros. You're writing, and I don't mean professionals, I mean prose. You're not writing for the written word, you're writing for an artist to interpret whatever it is you're trying to say and put it down on paper. And that is something that is very different and very difficult, but it also is able to convey and express more to the reader than um, just words is sometimes. So
So yeah. So to talk about that too, I mean, what is that like? Because obviously you have going from a board game, which is very controlled of the
hmm
player, to
hmm
now giving the reader and
hmm
giving the player, the reader, your audience a story that they have some interpretation on what can be read, how it could it be said more angry or not, but
yeah,
also saying, hey, this is the story. We're following these characters, and this character is not in it. So the police officer is in it for 5 scenes, and then
right.
you have main characters. And so what is that like too? Because obviously that's a also different experience.
hmm and it's pretty interesting that you brought that up, because um, there really are different levels of immersion, or should I say interaction, with each one. The board game, sure, you can walk around the world and you can play the game, you can fight the villains, but you're limited by the decks of cards that are there, right? The exploration cards for each location and the villain and so on. Which again, we still have tons and tons of them. Uh, but whereas the RPG, you're given a character and you're given a plot start, something that's going to start the story, and then you're allowed to run through that town as much as you want, do whatever you want. And I've had people I've had people go in directions that I never would have expected, but you just got to adapt. And that is the one that the RPG gives the single most player freedom. But then you have the graphic novels and the novel itself, which has no freedom for them, because we're not doing a choose your own adventure here. Um, but it's more tightly scripted and narrated, as opposed to the story that you're getting from the games and the RPG.
And then also, I mean, do you feel that it expands the audience or it expands the
hmm
property? Because once you start building out, I guess, subsequentials and I guess spin-off products, it might be the better word to use here. But if you have a board game, then you have an expansion, and then
hmm
you go say, hey, I'm gonna go create a graphic novel. It's a new product, but it's also a familiar product. It's kind of like when a television show then produces a novel
Yep.
off of the same characters in the television show. You're entering a new audience, but you also have a built-in audience to some degree too. I don't know how to explain that, but it's interesting, I guess. And there's spin-offs and some other things. You know where I'm going with the question.
Absolutely. I've purchased many, and I mean many, many, many of those spin-off novels, like the Buffy series. I bought the novels for it. Same thing with Angel, Leverage. Conan has the original, Robert E. Howard stuff, but I've bought the L. Sprague de Camp and Robert Jordan and other Conan novels, because I was interested in the characters and the stories. And that's something that good that you brought up, is that uh, those that may not be, those that get interested through the board game might be more likely to then explore the novels or the graphic novels or the role playing game. But if if you're only into the books, if you're only into reading, horror adventure kind of stories, well, now that you know that this is part of a board game series, you might be, likely to go ask about that. And I think that the fact that I keep it, how do I want to say this? What I do when I'm writing, in order to bring the game into the books, I will have the decks of cards from the locations there, and I'll flip over 3 or 4 at random, completely at random. And I will make sure to incorporate those into the story. So this way, you feel, even like when you play the board game, then you're like, I did that. This, I read about this. This is from there. And it just makes that mental connection that a lot of people like.
No, see, it's interesting, right? And again, I find it fascinating when I guess subsequent products get developed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, I think with at least the first graphic novel and maybe the second one, you also included cards that could then be brought
Yes.
over into the board game too. And that also probably helps to some degree. And so, what is that like also? Because now somebody says, cool, I want to up my game and my deck. And then you could add those cards into your game. And so, because
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of companies have done that with a bunch of stuff. And it's kind of like you get a book, or, I remember back in the day, it used to be that you buy a Yu-Gi-Oh graphic novel or manga, you got cards in the back of it, and it was great. Or you got a sticker, or you got something that was cool. Like the One Piece stuff did a bunch of stickers in the back of the book. And if you're a sticker collector, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Because I think that's also a big deal to some degree and helps as well.
Well, it was neat that you mentioned it, because Buffy's books did the same thing when they had the Buffy collectible card game out, where if you could cut it out of the back of the book, it's just an extra page, mail it in, and they would send you special promo cards. But what I did was, on the campaign, not only did I offer three promo cards to start for the board game, but I also did something called New in Town, where you did a choose your own adventure as the weeks went by. So I would tell you, you just got to town, you have these 3 places you can go. Where do you want to go? And from there, I would unlock new cards for the board game as they played along. And I think we got 6 cards that we unlocked before, well, because the campaign ends in like a day and a half, something like that. 42 hours, yeah. And being able to, I think that's the kind of thing a lot of people don't get about crowdfunding these days, is you have to bring the backers, the customers in, and make them get invested, make them want to come back and see what's going on, make them want to share it out. And I think giving them not only the cards for the board game, but also giving them the game and something to do, help with that.
So that's interesting. So I mean, because it's interactive, right? So I work at a company and it's education, and we have an ITRS, which is an internet teacher resource system that's interactive, right? To some degree. So you could click the menu button, you can click things around, and you can go and shift through lesson plans and weeks and days and other stuff. And it's internet interactive. And it's a very cool product because you can interact with it. And then I've also heard this from other people where somebody backs your campaign. And I'm honest, I'm guilty of this, right? I back the campaign. I don't want to see it. I got a million things going on. If I back your campaign, I don't even, I mean, I have an idea where the stretch goals are. So if, depending on whose campaign it is, I'm like, okay, we should do 15,000 on this. And they got 6 stretch goals. Okay, cool. We should get 5 or 6 of these. Awesome. I look forward to it. But I'm not looking at somebody's Kickstarter all day. I personally could care less because I got a million things going on in my life. But I understand that some people might want that. Some people live for this. And so what is that like too, to keep things, I guess, fresh and update your page? Because this gets complicated with places like Zoop and Crowdfunder and places that I don't know if Fund My Comic with Luke Stone. I don't know if you can update your page, but that takes away components because if you want to keep adding cool shit in there, and it's like, oh, we're gonna tell the end of the story first, and then or you put the first page, the second page, and then in weeks 2 and 3 you put pages 3 and 4, and then in the last week, if you do a 3-week campaign, you do pages 5 and 6. If you can't edit it, your page, I mean, you take away components. So I mean, I find it interesting because personally, I don't give a fuck. I got so much going on that I just want to back it, and I want my book. And you can give me an update like every month. Great.
Well, that's what I did with this. Is I did it was actually by every 3 or 4 days I would do an update with this one, just because unlocking more cards for the game, and it would say, hey, here's your choices if you want to play. Here's a poll. All you got to do is click on the poll, and boom, you'll make your choice. But it is a lot to do. It adds a lot of overhead, and I'm not sure that everybody would see benefit from it. I did it because I have the board game, and it adds cards for the board game. Now there was 1 or 2 where I was late on updating, but that's because Juliet broke her arm and all that, so I had to spend all time dealing with that kind of stuff. But no, I think it's a way, any way that you can get backers interested and make them want to talk about it or share it is always good.
So let me ask this, because I'm curious about the whole Kickstarter world. Do you think that's actually the future? Do you think that campaigns and Kickstarters need to be more interactive and need to be more event-based? Because at this stage in the game, I mean, I think people have to earn my money, right? And so do you think that this needs to be more interactive, or do you think that it's a case-by-case basis? Or like, where do you think it is? Because I'll be honest. I mean, I've seen people talk saying you need more stretch goals or more interesting or need more unique stretch goals. I've heard people say that you should get rid of stretch goals. And I've seen that debate. I've seen interactive things. I've seen less interactive. I've seen, obviously Lori with Path of the Pale Rider does some stuff in and out of Kickstarter with voting and destroying fruits and things and slashing it up. That's interesting. And that's a form of interactive components. So I guess I'm curious because I'm not an interactive show, right? But by definition, I'll respond to comments after an interview, or I'll interact with people on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But this is one-on-one with my guest, right? I don't want to be interactive interviewing. It makes no sense. But somebody shoots me a DM on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, I'm going to be answering you. If somebody wants to comment and we want to get into a comment discussion on YouTube, more than happy to do that too. So, but that's the future, or where do you think it's going? Because I've seen so many discussions on this issue and this topic.
I think especially for your first 1 or 2, you need to have something that makes your project seem exciting in order to help build your fan base. And what a lot of people are, I mean, there's people going out there and they're doing 2 and 3 shows a day. I just don't have time for that. But it works. It gets people backers. It gets people out there. It gets your name out there. And
so
I think that's more important.
Let me challenge on the idea, though, of doing 2 to 3 shows. Is it really effective? Is it really working? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think that this is effective and working. I mean, all these Facebook groups are a bunch of creators. They're not fans. And so I don't know. And even with all of these people, like, I don't know if it's ultra effective, right? I think being on shows is effective. I actually think, and I don't mean to I don't want to be like bragging or stating, but I actually think that having a show that breaks up micro content and puts you out on TikTok and puts you out on Instagram Reels and gives you actual credibility on the back end and a lot of micro content and can do it really fast, I think that's more effective, to be honest. If I could take a 2-minute clip explaining what Slaughterville is, put it on YouTube, give it to you, cut it up out of the interview, that's more effective because that's 2 minutes. You put that onto a TikTok reel, that thing could get 4,000 or 5,000 views if it's tagged correctly. So I don't know if actually doing 3 interview shows is super effective anymore.
I will admit and agree, those groups these days are 90% marketers. Yeah.
Useless.
Yeah. You don't know. There's so many that when I first started looking at them, it was, hey, tell us what you're about. Yeah. And all it is a way for them to then try to contact you and say, hey, do you need a video on your book? Hey, do you need editing on your stuff? Do you need this? Do you need this? If I needed it, I would have gone out and hired people.
Right now, I go through. I got no problem naming names, and I like some of these people. But there are people who this is their business. Heather Ellen does it. I don't know Heather Ellen. I have no issues with Heather Ellen, but she's marketing stuff. Nita Lanning markets a bunch of people's stuff. I like Nita a lot. I never had an issue. I think Nita does a great job. I think, Anita and Heather, I think, are in the same business or are pretty close or work together with each other. But then you have people like Jeffrey Haas. You got Kevin Gillette or Guillotine or whatever his name is. I don't know how to say it. He does ink marketing. And there's like 15 other people, right, in this space. And nothing against any of these people. I mean, if you want to make money, but, and then you got other people, like my friend Josh does some PR work for some people. And I get it all. And look, I'm not in that space. I just want to interview people because I have a different business model completely. But my point is that we look at that, and then I look at all these groups, and I see a bunch of people who are comic creators. And so is another comic creator going to buy my book or buy my product? And then people say, I can't back all your projects, but I could share your link out. Well, sharing your link out isn't exactly helpful. Now, sharing it out in an email to your followers would be helpful. But are you really doing that?
Right. That's what I did a lot of when I started with this collaboration thing with on that Booktopia with the backer kit is, I mean, the guy that I'm partnering with, he wasn't as savvy on the social media marketing part of it, which is fine. It's just not his thing. So I did a lot of trying to connect with anyway, a lot of the backers and other people that I know, and I hope I helped them out. In fact, it's really funny. He and I are ranked as the top that has the most shared backers in between us. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So I mean, I'm curious because the way I see it, and this is just me on social media, is that I don't like Facebook. I rarely promote on Facebook.
I would quit it if
I promote heavy and I build heavy on YouTube, which is a whole different ball game. A lot of community stuff on YouTube. It's effective. A lot of video pushing out, a lot of tagging, correct tagging. I also do a lot of stuff on TikTok because TikTok is really useful for me. I'll take a minute clip, 45 seconds to a minute out of my interview, and it could do on average, it does about 600 plays on TikTok while promoting the YouTube side of stuff. So it says, hey, it's a short clip, give it a short title, say full interview on the Pop Anime Comics YouTube channel, right? So it's seen. So I don't know how much that converts over, but it puts it in play. I share that reel out on my Facebook wall, and I share that reel onto Instagram. So I'm utilizing the same content on 3 or 4 different platforms, and then it gets recycled out eventually onto YouTube. Legitimately, like 6 weeks later, that same piece of content. So I've taken a very different approach, but this is why I say those groups are useless, because they're not fully useless, but they're not effective. It's a better word. And that's how I feel, because I don't, and I'll say it the other way too. If you're strictly on Facebook and you build a lot of content on Facebook, yeah, it makes sense because that's what Facebook wants. YouTube wants content on YouTube. If I really want to push YouTube, I would be doing this interview and I'd be live streaming it vertically with you while we're doing this on
Mhm.
Facebook. And that interview in that vertical position on Facebook would have more views than this right now. Because YouTube wants content on YouTube. Facebook wants content on YouTube. So if I had 6 cameras, I would set it up, and then I have all my guests have 3 or 4 cameras too. And we
Mhm.
would be sharing the exact same stream to all the platforms at the same time, individually and collectively.
The hot thing now that I've been hearing about lately is Shorts Live. So this way, when you go to Shorts Live, not only are you, well, you're going live, so you're hitting that algorithm, you're hitting the Shorts algorithm, and then you're hitting the long form content one as well. So it's a 3-for-1 on that. So I'd highly recommend looking into that if you're even if you're just
YouTube
showing. Go ahead.
YouTube really likes the vertical interaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they really like that. But it doesn't work on content like this. It works to interact with your fans.
Hmm.
So in reality, again, in my world, it's complicated. So I should have a wrap-up show after every interview, right? So I should go live immediately after this interview, just speak to my fans, say, "Hey guys, what did you think about the interview?" And then if I did that for 26 weeks in a row, after
Mm-hmm.
or I did that for legitimately 50 interviews in a row, or dude, let's say I did 2 and then you did it wrapped up, then what would start happening is my fans would interact with me there and it would grow my channel. But that's not what I
Right.
wanted, because I think it would actually water down the brand. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the whole
But speaking of Facebook, um, we used to actually make money on Facebook from putting out live streams and everything. Lately, over the last month or so, everything we've put on Facebook has been banned. And it's just been taken down. You're not allowed to see it anywhere. Um, and I don't understand. And they don't let you know why, of course. But it's just me and Ben sitting there talking about hunting and stuff. So I don't understand why it was okay a month ago, but now all of a sudden we're getting banned. Well,
I don't
I gotta tell. Go ahead. I got excited
No,
about
no,
something.
you go, and then we'll get back to back or get in a sec with your novel, but you go.
I got so excited. Um, I was, you know how I do the board game stuff, right? And I throw up board game reviews just because, well, I like doing them, and I don't care if they do well or anything else. I just like doing them. Well, a company reached out to me. Do you remember? Did you ever hear the Marvel Overpower card game?
I have not.
Okay, used to be big back in the '90s and early 2000s, and well, they're bringing it back. It's more the Overpower card game. Well, they reached out to me and said they wanted a sponsor, and they're like, "What do you want for it?" I said, "I don't, just send me product." So they're sending me a few decks of cards, and so I can unbox them because they're not even out yet. It's only coming out in October on the 15th, I think it is. But no, I just thought that was pretty cool. I was pretty
That's
psyched
good.
about it. I am pretty excited.
Yeah, no, I don't really get any sponsors. It's all good. I'm okay with it. I
You
sleep
had
fine at night.
This is the first
Um,
that's ever happened to me, so that's why I was.
again, I'm taking a different approach right now. Right now, I'm not really interested in advertisements. I'm not interested in doing
Mhm.
sponsorship. I'm just interested in just running my show and building out the back end,
Yeah.
because I'm not worrying about it, because this is a small money problem. It's not a big money problem for me. Um, there are bigger things going on in my life that require my attention more than me pursuing sponsorships.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm not worried. And anything that will come my way, I'd rather be ready for it when it comes my way than try to force it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just me personally. But no, that's good, man. I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
Um, but I want to talk about the Backer Kid stuff, because it was Booktopia.
Mhm.
And what was that like? Because obviously Backer Kit, you're running it on Backer Kit with this
Mhm.
Booktopia. You're running it on Kickstarter. And so what was that even like to do both at the same time? Because I don't think you've ever run on Backer Kit per se.
No.
And you don't want to divide an audience, but you also want the promotion, you want the money. And
Hmm.
it's the same project to some degree on
Hmm.
BackerKit and on Kickstarter. So it's not going to change anything as far as, I guess, the product that's being developed, but it's also more money, but it's also the idea that you want to re-educate your audience too. And so I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you because it's tricky when you go and you run a project on BackerKit, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Fund My Comic, and Zoop.
Yeah.
And because now you're fracturing your audience to a degree,
Hmm.
but you're also saying, what are you doing next? Right. Because,
Right.
and then it's also exclusivity could be a problem and a bunch of other things. So what is that like to deal with all that? Because I think it's complicated to
So
some degree.
some people were not a fan of the Kickstarter model or Kickstarter the platform themselves. And what happened is BackerKit, because I always use BackerKit for my pledge manager, collecting all their addresses and getting the shipping information out to them correctly. And since I used it God, I've funded so many projects. BackerKit reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we're doing this event called Booktopia. Um, we see you're doing a novel project. Do you want to have that novel part of this event?" I said, "Well, sure." And then so that's where that all came from, and it's all about collaborating with other writers and showing off as many projects as possible. And that's one of the things I liked about it, is because it it streamlines the whole process for the backers. So not only do they pledge there, but it's the same spot where they're doing their shipping, and it's same, so that you don't have to go to Kickstarter. Then you got to go to this thing. Then you got to go to another thing. Now I left it on Kickstarter because, well, some people prefer it. They like it there, which is fine. I got half the number of people on Kickstarter that I did on BackerKit. So I mean, it's working. Both of them are working, and
So let me ask you this because it'll go back to the other question too about events and even just collaborations and pledging and all that stuff. What is this like for you? Because do you think that even collaborations or putting like-minded projects next to each other is also the future?
yes.
Because that I mean, that's an issue. Also, do you think that this is an event that they put so there was emphasis behind it too, and that if you were to just do this on back with no support, it may or may not do as well. And also, I mean, where does the onus fall upon you? Because I think the theory of backer kit with this was that if I team up with A, B, C, and D, when D promotes it to his audience, it's going to
Hmm.
help B and C, right? That's the theory.
Sure,
If I'm not
sure.
mistaken. And then hopefully when you promote it to your audience, and hopefully you all have some overlapping audiences, but you also have new audiences. It's
Hmm.
kind of like podcasting, right? You have fans, I have fans, and then I interview a wrestler and they know nothing about any of this, but they have fans, and then some of those fans stay
Right.
into this whole thing, and then you build an audience. That's the theory of guests and relationships and all that stuff. So what is, do you think that's why it did double? Do you
Well,
think it's the event and collaboration, or do you think it's something else? Because this is where crowdfunding is getting interesting, right?
I think some of it is indeed that collaboration and the promotion that they're doing. And what's the one thing that people really complain about Kickstarter? We're paying these fees for Kickstarter, and they don't do anything for you. They don't promote you. They don't do anything with you. Here, they put this event out. They're promoting it, and they've shared my project a bunch of times. Not just mine, but other people's as well. But I've seen it where it's specifically just mine. And when they do this, it shows that they're actually working towards the projects themselves, as opposed to with the Kickstarter, who you flounder or you don't. You know, so I
So,
think it is very
let me
important
ask you
for.
this. Sorry, continue. What were we saying?
Actually, I think it's very important for these companies to understand that the more that they help the creators, the more the creators can bring money to them. But I'm going to need about a minute and a half. I got to go deal with something quick, but I will
Go
be
right
right back. Okay.
So I'm right now flying solo for a minute and a half. So I will politely promote me. If anybody has any questions, you are more than welcome to ask. Next week I'm having Dustin Burnell from Ethereal Comics / Publishing on. I'm also having a cosplayer on this Saturday, which should be a lot of fun. I am having RJ, I believe Williams. He did a trading card set as well. I'm probably going to be reaching out to a few more guests this week and get a few more of those people in. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I'm always bringing in new guests, always bringing in cool people. I'm not that hard to find. If you got a project and you want to hit me up, you could hit me up on Facebook, Instagram. I'm Pop Anime Comics. I'm andrewedavis. You can always shoot me a message there. I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter. My Twitter is open. My Instagram is open. Pop Anime Comics. And so I got all that stuff. I also have an eBay store for those who are very much curious about what I do. I buy and sell a lot of cards, comics, collectibles, all that fun stuff. It's a great time to promote me. And I got a bunch of cool stuff. And so, yeah, that's kind of everything that I got going on. I also run a Friday show that I talk about wrestling, and I love talking about it, and we talk about some cool stuff. I kind of have an idea what we're going to talk about. I think it just came out, the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. And so you got no chance in hell if you missed that episode to ever be my friend again. I got a bunch of these. Ready to go. So, but all jokes aside, I'm very, very, very excited about all that stuff. So that's kind of everything that I got going on. I'll wait for Chris to get back. But yeah, so that's kind of the big thing of everything. So yeah, so that's kind of the brief everything I got. So everything Pop Out of my comics is mine, basically. But yeah, so Chris is back. So
Speaking of Pop Anime Comics, I think I put Gods of Metal up on the shelf. Yeah, it's all the way up there. I'm not getting up to get it, but that has the elf card. The elf card's in there.
I do have an elf card. If I'm at a con, and I might be at a con in October, and you should probably not come up to me at that con. I'm going to Exotica Con. Not as a fan. A friend of mine's like, "Yo, dude, you want to go?" And I'm like, "Why the fuck not?" that was my response. Why not? But it's gonna be fun. Pat Chan's gonna be there. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
You brought up something really important, and I don't know if you realize how important that what you just said is. Not the F word and all that, but no, conventions. I think conventions are 10 times more important than those Facebook groups or anything else. When I was able to get out, meet people, deal, and talk to them, get to know them and play games and stuff with them, I found that doing things like that gave me more of a bump in backers than just about anything else.
That's interesting.
So you were asking about the future of things, and I honestly think that has to be a big component. Is getting yourself out there, and I know a lot of people are afraid to do it, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be afraid to do it, but I get it that people are. But get yourself out there, meet the people. In fact, I swear to God, for this book, which once I'm done reading it, I'm going to send it to you because I'm pretty sure, even though
I might just pick up a copy. You're muted.
But the guy was personable. He was willing to get out there and talk to you about his book. Get out there and talk to you about his projects. And if I would not have been in that convention, I never would have met this guy in order to get this. So I think they are very important.
So to even go to go further back into all this, because obviously, I mean, it's getting really, really interesting with crowdfunding between, I guess, backer kit and this stuff, and even just managing both of those things, which is what we were talking about before. And so what is that even to figure out which one you want to promote, what you want to do, also to, I don't want to say re-educate your audience, but say, cool, I got this backer kit going on. It's for 2 weeks. I got this Kickstarter over here. And then figuring out even how to promote all that, because which link do you promote, which is going to benefit you more? Where do you even want to be? Because this is the whole issue, I guess, is that there's Fund My Comic, which is Luke Stone's project. There's also this whole thing where you now have Kickstarter, you have Zoop, which a bunch of people are going to, and
Mhm.
even figuring out where you want your audience to be. Because I think that's also a really big discussion going on right now with Kickstarter or not
Yes.
in crowdfunding in general is that do I want to make that shift and jump
Mhm.
from Kickstarter because it's not doing anything? And a bunch of you are saying that. I've had Roland Mann, who's from Silverline, and
Mhm.
he said our traffic was driven by us.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving 99% of the traffic. Kickstarter's driving none of the traffic.
Mhm.
Do I really want to give them all that money? So, I mean, I'm curious where you think it is, or do you think that Kickstarter's still the king?
No, no, I'm right with them. In fact, you can see where people come from, on your projects, and most of them are from out of network referrals, I guess is a good. It's not from Kickstarter or it's not from nothing. Almost, I think I got one backer from Facebook, and that's doing Facebook ads. That's doing not ads, but boosted posts, which is the same thing but cheaper, smarter way to do it. Um, Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this against Luke in any way because I like the guy from what I've talked to him. But when you're talking about narrowing down which platforms you're using, uh, a lot of people are talking about Fund My Comic lately in that it is the future way to go for comics. Okay, I've heard that a lot from a lot of different shows. But for my games, for my RPGs and things, I got one order. You know, so there was not a return on there for me that was worth the effort. So again, it's nothing against his, it's just not what it's tailored for. And that's fine. But my choice, how I manage it with doing backer kit and Kickstarter, I combine the funding to do stretch goals. So this way the people know no matter where you back it at, you're contributing towards these unlocking the stretch goals. And it makes it feel like they're working together. But I promote the backer kit one probably 75 to 25%. Backer kit 75, Kickstarter 25. And that's just because this is where I would like to focus. Now, if I'm doing games, um, maybe I'm not doing backer kit. I'm going to go to something called GameFound, which is a crowdfunding platform designed just for board games. So that's their target audience. There's more people on there that's going to back it. With Kickstarter, they don't have um, a pointed audience. It's just like a yard sale thrown out there. With the backer kit, it was Booktopia. There was that event. That's what drew me there was the event. Speaking of, I'm going to be doing another event with backer kit in, gosh, it's either March or May of next year called Tabletopia, tabletop kind of a thing, because they wanted me to make a micro board game for them for that event. So that's what I'm doing. I'm designing another board game just for that event. But again, it's something where they're putting support behind it. They're putting effort behind it and getting the people's names out there. That's just something Kickstarter doesn't do. And it's like, if you're not going to help us, I'm going to go somewhere that will.
See, it's interesting because again, I mean, I'm on eBay, and eBay is a global market, and eBay's
Hmm.
not really promoting my position, but they are giving me global market exposure, which
Right.
is why they take 13%. But they also give me seller protections, coverage, other things too, and I don't have to deal with payment processors and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm very
Hmm.
much into it where I'm very, very much on eBay for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, global shipping is a big deal with eBay. It's easy.
I was going
And
to
so
just mention that.
it's handled through Kentucky, which is
Hmm.
helpful. So I don't have to worry. I ship to Kentucky, and I don't have to worry about it ever again. So
Yep.
very, very helpful in that regard. But you mentioned something interesting about Facebook ads, Facebook boosting. What is that like? Because that's a big thing now. I mean, nothing against Murphy, nothing against Comics Elite, nothing against Merc Mag, but they spend a lot of money on ads, a lot of money on
Hmm.
ads when they run projects. And they do a lot of money, but
Hmm.
Oshi Push, another good example, they did over 500,000, but they were running ads on Instagram. I mean, they must have spent 50 grand on ads.
Yeah.
Maybe not 50, maybe 10, maybe 20. But Comics Elite, to do 100,000, they got to be spending at least $5 to $8,000 on ads.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of money to spend on top of your product.
Right.
And so what
It is.
that like, figure that out, because I'm terrified to spend money like that.
Yeah.
I mean, my philosophy is I'm trying to figure out how to get viral content the least expensive way.
And I'm going to say flat out, I've done enough of these Facebook ads now where nobody's buying anymore on them. Everybody's not, either everybody's skipping them or everybody understands just what they are. It's just an ad. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'll give you an example, right? Oshi Push. No idea what Oshi Push was. Saw the ad, was like, this project looks cool. Let me check it out. And then I put it in my notification of my Kickstarter. So the ad got me in, and then I spent $200, $225. But if I didn't see the ad, that project would have flown by the wind to me, right? I don't need to see the ad 50 times. You already got me on the first one because it fit my parameters of what I was interested in, right?
Yeah, I'm looking here, and I only got 20 redirects or 20 leads from Facebook and one backer two backers. I lied to you, from Facebook ads and things, and it's just not the return that it should be for what they're asking. So I think now there are services out there, and you're going to notice this a lot. Here's something I'm going to ask you. Next time you go out there and you see one of those comic books or board games that are doing 50, 60, 100,000, look at the very bottom of their campaign. You're probably going to see a company called Jellop, Jellop. And they are an up-and-comer where they market the living crap out of it, but then they take like 10, 15% off the top of what your project is.
So with Merc, when they do 100,000, it's in-house, but there's percentages given to Murphy. There's percentages given to the team. It's not free. And I had this conversation with somebody who was using Murphy, and I said, I think you'll do all right, but you're not going to do 60,000. And
Right.
then because you look at Murphy, and I'll call it out the way I see it, I'm going to get shit for this. I don't give a fuck because it's honest. So Murphy does a lot of money and has raised over $500,000. But who has she raised $500,000 for? Okay, she's raised $500,000 for people like Jamie Tyndall and Comics Elite, who spent a lot of money. But then she also works for Dolan, who does Nightmare. You met Dolan. I love Dolan. Yeah. He's great. He's got a book coming out with Comic Mint Press. I love Dolan. Dolan's great. Dolan's a good writer. You know, I would say 85% of what Dolan writes is pretty good, which is solid, because if you write 20 books and 18 of them are good, I mean, okay, everybody gets a pass, right? So, but the point I'm making is that Dolan only did $7,000. So you just did 100,000 with Merc Mag number 8, and then you do $7,000 with Dolan. Okay, there's a reason why, because it's the Facebook ads that you've marketed the living shit out of this, and you spent a lot of money to get that number up high. And it's fine, and you structured a campaign a particular way, and Dolan had a significantly lesser budget than Comics Elite had for their project. Sure. So, and there's nothing wrong. If you spend $700 and you do $7,000, that's a 10x. So there's nothing wrong depending on your budget, right? If I market a podcast and it cost me $10 and I got 10,000 views, I'd be like, dude, way to fucking go. That's a huge ROI, right? If I spent $1,000 and got 10,000 views, people be like, okay, that wasn't exactly the best ROI. Still a good return, but it wasn't great.
But I think, I know I believe TikTok's allowing ads for you to place ads. I'm not sure if
I find this
Twitter
interesting.
But go ahead.
And then what I was saying is I find it interesting when we start getting into all of this,
Mm-hmm.
because it raises questions. Is that, do you need to market the fuck out of your project,
Mm-hmm.
or do you need to have a good project? Because this is a real debate now. And it's also, do you need to, and then also, what happens if you spend the money, you have a $5,000 marketing budget, or let's say you have $1,000 marketing budget, you
Mm-hmm.
actually hire somebody who knows how to run Facebook ads, and then you spend $500 for their service, you give them $1,000 on Facebook ads, and they boost you up to 15,000. What happens with issue 2?
Right.
Because you drove sales, does that mean that you need to keep, now that you're in that cycle and you're in a cycle trap? And this is the whole dilemma that I have, is that, how do you deleverage out of that cycle trap that you could spend $900 on Facebook ads and get the same result? And then how can
Mm-hmm.
the next campaign, because you want to get down, you want to get your customer acquisition cost low. Right?
Yeah. I think, how do I want to say this? I think in these days, a funding goal is based on a few different things. One, of course, is you have to market the product through ads. Okay. When you go on things like this and other interview shows, I'm not marketing the product. Okay. I'm getting you to like me, because if you like me, you might naturally just like the product, right? It's marketing 101. But you can see some projects are banking on the IP that they have. For example, would you buy a story about a middle-aged redneck that's um, getting into slapstick adventures?
Probably
Possibly,
not.
right. But when I found out that Ernest P. Worrell is coming out with a new comic book, I got to get that because it's Ernest. It's the character that I like. It's just like if I were to, and I was going to do it, I was going to do it. It's going to be the best. I was going to be the greatest. They wanted 25 grand a piece for it, but I almost had the licenses for Jason and Freddy for Slaughterville. Would that have brought more money in? Of course it would, without a doubt. I could have got, but they wanted the money up front, and then they wanted 5% off the top. And I didn't have the money up front to do it, or else that would have made tons of money with Jason and Freddy in it. So it's a combination of your marketing, the IP that you have, the product that you have, and how approachable do you seem to be. I think those are a lot of the things.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I'll be honest. There are people who came in, and people come into my show based on a thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, you see a sexy girl in a bikini, you're gonna say, "Cool, who's this chick?"
I'm not
Right?
putting one on.
No,
Okay, I
no,
will.
no. You understand the theory, right? You see an attractive woman
Mm-hmm.
who looks like a model, looks like something, and you're like, okay, cool. I want to check out what this interview is, right?
Sure.
Or you see a wrestler and you're like, okay, cool. I want to see who this wrestler is. Or, oh man, Savannah Fox is an adult superstar. You're like, okay, Savannah Fox looks attractive. Cool. This is cool, right? Or the name,
Mm-hmm.
the name Savannah Fox, or the name Bella Inc., the name Bella Rockefeller, or the name Kenna Valentina, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie Stoll's around. So naturally, it's that takes care of itself. Or the Sasha Nakamoto's, if you're like, what the fuck is this? If you look at that AI girl, you're like, okay, I have no idea what this is, but this looks
Mm-hmm.
awesome, right? So I get it. It's so interesting because I don't really know, because it's also the idea that, how do you make money with this too?
Mm-hmm.
Because if all of a sudden you have to pay a lot of money up front and then you have to market it, I mean, it's such a fucking pain in the ass.
Right.
I have a
But
headache
no,
from
like,
this.
sorry, I'll shut up then.
No, continue.
But no, like a lot of your things have um, the ability to be funnels, I guess is a good way to put it, where yes, that is something that is definitely going to attract someone to want to click on it and check it out. Like you have Wrestling Brothers, you have them on Ichiban. But then, like you said, that Sasha person,
Sasha Nakamoto.
yeah, you have all of these things that can be that's naturally something that people want to get in there and look at, and get in there and check it out. You get voice actors for popular anime stuff,
You get
and
stuff
again,
that isn't popular.
go ahead. What was that?
And you get stuff that isn't popular, but that's fun to watch. But like
Mm,
that's the point is that like because this is where I think this gets all convoluted is that how do you level up to what is called the next level? Do you have to buy your way in? Do you have to earn your way in? Do you have to deploy your capital appropriately? And this is my whole dilemma here. And even with me as a podcaster, I have this dilemma is I'm trying to figure out, I guess, the correct formula. Should I be
mhm.
spending $500 on marketing and then utilize that to get to the next level, grow it, deploy it appropriately with the correct Facebook ads in the right areas? Or would it be better to just spend a lot of time creating content or hiring somebody to create a lot of content for me off of my existing content? And
Mm,
this is the whole thing, and I don't know. I mean, I'm taking the approach right now of saying, "Cool, let me just create micro content and just throw
mhm.
micro content, create the TikToks and build that out, and then just tag it appropriately, and then push it out organically."
Or
Because
or and again, I've known people that have run comic book conventions. Do you go to an agent and say, "Hey, I would like to get insert celebrity here to come on for an interview to talk about who they are, what they do, and how they got to where they are." Is spending the money on something like that worth more than the ad?
I mean,
Because
this
not only
whole
do you
thing,
get the interview, you get all the little break it apart and a little, like you said, the micro content stuff.
this just happened, and somebody has to be paid on my show.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna say it. I think she's a nice cosplayer, but she has 11,000, almost 12,000 Instagram followers. And the issue was that she wanted $100. The issue for me is that I don't really know because I just had somebody who had 15,000 followers on my show a week and a half ago.
Hmm.
So that person came on because they wanted to come on. I'm having somebody who has like 1,400, so significantly less. But then I've also had people who have had 600,000 Instagram followers come on my show. And it becomes a whole ethical debate and debacle, right? Is how much should somebody charge? And then what are the whole contracts, right? So if I'm going to go pay for an interview and I'll just state in it and I get flack for this and I'll take it, I now need to write a contract
Hmm.
because I'm paying you for a service, which means certain positions have to be granted. So she said that includes social media promotion. What do you mean? What social media promotion
Hmm.
are are we talking about? Are we talking about you just putting an Instagram post up? Are we talking about you doing TikTok stuff? Are we talking about micro content? Are we talking about that if I send you after the interview, like a reel, you're going to throw the reel up onto your Facebook wall or your Instagram wall? Like, what are we talking about social media components? Because there might be a great clip of us. Would you throw that in there? And now we have to have a contract negotiation. Because anytime
Hmm.
I'm gonna pay for something, I gotta know your followers, I gotta know your engagement rate, I gotta know so much shit that's gonna take 6 weeks.
That is important. It's not just the followers; it's the engagement thing. How many people are actually actively interacting with this person? Um, but no, it's
It's also at $10, it's different than at 100.
right, right. But if I had somebody recently when I was starting with these the promotion stuff, where they said that they would share it out and they would do all of these promotional activities. You know what they did was copied and pasted what I wrote um, onto a blog post onto 3 different websites that they own. And they said, "Now you share this out." I said, "I'm not sharing out your stuff to push traffic to your site. This was about promoting the book, promoting my stuff." So that was money well wasted. Let's put it that way. But it was a lesson about just this very thing is not everybody is worth the money. Okay. And it's just the God's honest truth. Not everybody's worth it. If
I mean,
Kevin Spacey came to you and said, "I want you give me $1,500 and I'll come on and I'll do an interview for you," I can almost guarantee you'd make that money back.
oh, I would make it. Just how you make it back, right? You then book the interview, and then you go to everybody you know, and you say, "Look,
Mm-hmm.
you got a comic book. I got 4 spots here.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be this price. It's gonna be $500 a pop.
Yeah.
Do you want in? Because a lot of people are gonna look at this shit, and I have them for an hour and 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want in?" Those spots would be gone within 6 hours.
Yeah, if you got Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, something like that, and they wanted some form of compensation for an interview, those would be worth it. But somebody who's, just brand new out there, they shouldn't be asking for money for this. It's supposed to be mutually beneficial. I'll share your things out. I will spread it as well as while you're spreading out word of my project. That's the way it was supposed to be.
It's also the idea that somebody said it really, really well to me. He said, if Elon Musk wouldn't ask you for money, he doesn't need your money.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's serious doesn't need your money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need anybody's money as a guest. I've
That's
been
why
in
I'm
front.
only.
People have taken specs on me. I was on this show called Cash Daddies, and they were making fun of me because I had the hots for the office secretary, and there's a debate between the hosts. They're like, "Oh, you should just go for it, man. Why not? You have a good job, but you should go ahead and ask her out." And the guys said, "Dude, just walk away." It was a very funny, but we were talking about money too. And the point of the whole thing, what we were getting at is that I said, "Look, I'm making X, but I was a guest for free. It would be ridiculous for me to ask. They have a decent big platform. It would have been
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous for me to ask for money. I could ask saying, hey, is there ability that we could do it at 3:00 and not 2:00? That's not an unreasonable ask.
Mm-hmm.
But asking for money would have been ridiculous in that circumstance. Now, if you want to sit down with me and talk about financial services and a private conversation, that's different though, because I'm offering you now a real service.
Hmm.
And it's one-sided. It's not so. But my point is that that whole conversation on the internet, on Facebook, was ridiculous. So that person asking, but is they could ask. They have every right to ask. It's
Mm-hmm.
a free country to ask, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, I'm like, okay, but it's so complicated.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm only charging you $1,500 for tonight. It's.
So many things I could say. So many things I could
Yeah.
say. That's funny.
Yeah.
But no, I find the topic interesting, and it's so confusing because somebody's running PR, and people run PR all the time, and they ask for interviews from me, and I'm like, great.
Mm-hmm.
This was the whole issue with Jeffrey Haas, is he's running interviews for people that are paying him a lot of money, and then he's not paying me a dime. And then how am I supposed to feel? It means that somebody values his time more than they value
Mm-hmm.
mine. They're willing to pay real money for it. So the whole thing's a mess.
Yeah.
And this is why I hate when money is exchanged in this sector, because it just gets so messy.
Mm-hmm.
and it's either, I forget who it is, if it's Henry Clout or Malcolm Gladwell that said about boundaries. And boundaries are so complicated right now in all of this. So there you go. But I digress. But enough about this topic, because I do want to move on to another one. So
Okay.
where do you feel that the whole industry is going? Because we touched upon it a bunch, but the whole comic industry and pop culture is really, really complicated right now, I feel. And it's very not complicated. I use that word a little too much. It is uncertain, might be a better word.
Unstable. Yeah. Which way would you like me to talk about this? Financial or product wise? Talent wise?
Yeah, I mean, all of it, however you want to talk about it.
All right. The obvious financials that we've talked about before is this. There's just not as much money to go around these days. So you're going to see projects that are making a lot less. And you can either power through it and wait until this bubble bursts and then we start making money again, or you're going to bow out. It's as simple as that. Now, that being said, there are so many books out there that I've seen that are just not good. You can tell just by either the campaigns or the previews and stuff. They're just not good. But here's my problem with a lot of things. People are afraid to say that. Okay. So then they let subpar books come into play, which hurts the whole industry.
Let me ask you a question about that.
Mhm.
I'll let you continue. When do you get to call a subpar book out? And hear my logic on this one. Is it that if a first issue comes out and it's low average, but you're like, okay, it's a first issue, do you call it out on the first issue, or do you call it out on the second issue? Because if it's if the person says I have 12 issues that I want to write, I think you get 2 issues to fix it. And because sometimes you get a bad first issue, because I've read a book where the first issue was horrible, and then the second issue, like, oh my God, this book was turned around. Thank God I backed this second issue, right? And then the rest of the series was great. So I've read plenty of things like that. I've also read things where the first 6 issues were great, and then the last 6 issues were an abortion. So,
Mhm.
it could go either way. So I don't know. Like, I'll give you an example. The Walking Dead, right? There are
Mhm.
spans of The Walking Dead where it is subpar, right?
Oh yeah.
But the first 6 issues of The Walking Dead, oh my God, you put that up against anything? The first 6 issues of The Walking Dead slay everything. Brilliant, the first 6 issues.
Mhm.
So, and even issues 7 through 12 were great. The first like 24 issues of The Walking Dead are an unbelievable masterclass on comic writing. And there are better issues than others, but then you get to issue 89, and it's like, this sucks.
Yeah. There's. I'm also going to bring in, and I think this guy just knows how to build worlds. Because did you see Void Rivals? Did you ever read that?
I
By
did
Kirk.
not.
Okay, Robert Kirkman started putting out this book called Void Rivals, and by the end of one of the books, you see a transformer, and that's how they introduced the Transformers were coming to the Image Skybound universe. But
Whoa, Transformers in Skybound? What? When did this? No, I'm not joking.
I was going
I'm
to say,
sorry.
yeah, you knew about it. I'm not falling for that one. But no, but he knows how to do all the pacing. Now, as far as when would I call it out? I think every new person has an first book, right? Where it's going to be, there's a good chance where it's just going to be okay. And I said the same thing about, the Eric July Isom stuff. It was okay. It wasn't great. It was all right.
So,
But
yeah, what were you saying?
I've seen recently, and this is what made me think of this. I've seen recently books that are being marketed where the interiors look slightly better than stick figures. It is horrible. And that's this kind of thing I would call out right away. I have no problem with it.
So I'll give you an example on the podcasting side, because that's what I'm more familiar with. You got 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You got 10 episodes, right? So you got 10 episodes to find a place to put your hand on,
Mhm.
to get your grips. You have 50 to find your voice. And I'll tell you why you have 50. The average person in podcasting lasts 6 episodes.
Mhm.
You have 10 to get an idea where you should be at, and you have the next 40 to figure out where your show should be and your voice. It took me 50 episodes to get comfortable
Mhm.
to get to the level that I suck. If you listen, and coming in October, this is a good time to plug me. In October 22nd, 22nd ish, I'm releasing all of my earlier episodes from a different show that morphed into this show. And so you're going to get to, if you come in at 9 o'clock every morning for 120 days, you're going to get to listen to that early shit. It's straight
Nice.
audio, and you're gonna realize that you look at me now, and you look at me then, and you look at my voice, and you look at how I was boxed out. I mean, it is a
Mhm.
master class on evolution. That's from almost 10 years ago. So you could tell that on a straight out question line, and then you could tell that naturally, if you listen to that, and it's a master class, progression and understanding and knowing what I'm doing. And there are interviews in there that would be fascinating on a commentary level. I don't want to go through it. I do not want to do commentary on my own interviews. That
Right.
seems like hell. It seems really, really, really fucking painful to do it. But there's certain interviews that you could tell that, okay, I'm now navigating a little bit. But there's
Mhm.
also stuff there that I would like to take out, but I'm not going to. So, that's what it is. But again, it took me 50 episodes. You have
Well,
10 in podcasting, but it's also different
mhm.
because an episode in a podcast is not the same. I would
Right.
consider that 10 episodes of a podcast is 2 issues of a comic, is the equivalence.
Hmm. Now, it's interesting you brought that kind of thing up because we have recently been well, we recently tried a different format with the big sexy outdoors stuff. Okay. And trying something new is what you should be doing. However, most people can't adapt when it doesn't work. They're so emotionally invested in the change, that they're afraid to say, this thing just didn't work. We got to try something else. And ours, flat out, did not work. We lost a lot of consecutive viewers over those 2-3 weeks that we tried this new format. And we instantly we said, hey, we tried it, it didn't work, we scrapped it, we went back to what we're doing, and now we're getting everybody back again. But
It's also different with a podcast because a podcast is less expensive than a comic.
oh yeah, yeah,
But I mean, I think we tackled that. That was the economics.
yeah.
But getting back to the prompt, where do you think even the product side of it, and then the economics, and then even just the pop culture element of it, because clearly there's a lot of stuff going on in pop culture right now, and my thoughts are that it's just fragmented because you got your Star Wars bros, you got your anime bros, you got your anime in your anime bros, which is a whole
Hmm.
different discussion.
I
So,
have no idea.
no. You have people who like certain things and follow that, and you got other things in there. So you got your Demon Slayers, your My Hero Academias, then you got your Boruto's, Naruto's, Dragon Ball Z's, and you got your Pokemon crew, you got your Sailor Moon crew, and then some of the stuff all meshes up. And you
Mhm.
got people who are just interested in some like crazy obscure shit, right? And that's a whole thing. And then you have in comics, you got your Marvel, you got your indies, you got your DCs, you got your images, you got your boom guys, you got your Zenoscope people, and then you got people who follow just things like Doctor Who, right? Or
Mhm.
Buffy, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? So like that's where I think it's fragmented on a product level, and I mean that's what I think is going on in pop culture. So, but I don't know how you feel.
So last night, I wrote a message to Shane Davis, and I said, "Listen, I like Nine Lives comics. I like the stuff you put out. However, this infighting, this constant I hate you, you hate me, this kind of stuff that's going on, I said it's turning a lot of people off of comics in general. And that's where I see the state of it today is it's so many little clicks and so many, you can't like this person, you can't like that person. Dude, I'm 50 years old. I'll like whoever I want to like. Okay? And that's what I told them. Flat out. I said if you guys would just stick to comics, you'd sell a lot more instead of this drama BS stuff. I can't stand it. And that put me off of comics for a while. It's just this dumbness. So that's where I see it going. It's either gonna straighten out and people are gonna knock this off and just get back to doing what they do best, or it's gonna explode and then everybody's gonna pick sides. Then people are gonna lose money. Let them decide.
So you think the free market is going to fix it?
Mm-hmm. I really do. I think people are going to get tired of the dumbness. They're going to form into their little camps, and somebody's going to go out of business.
I think it's already started. I mean, let's. I mean, the boom stuff with Boom selling themselves, right? Companies are selling themselves to bigger companies. Dark Horse did it. They sold themselves to a bigger company. Boom just sold themselves to a bigger company. Look at what's going on with Scout, right? I've had this conversation. Scout sold a piece of themselves to a holding company, right? Now, so there's only two reasons why companies sell themselves to holding companies. Either they need money, and that company is becoming an investment banker essentially, and that company, so they buy a stake in that because they say, cool, you need money and we have money and we think this is going to produce a good rate of return. And when we want to go and we want to have a hostile takeover, we'll just buy more and more shares, right? Or if you own 10% and at some point you guys go out of business, we'll put more money in, we'll buy more, or they might have bought 25%, but they probably didn't. They probably bought about 4.9% because you don't need to report anything below that. Initially. Once you go above that, you need to report what you did. So I don't know what that company bought exactly. I'm sure if I ran into their K99, K1099 files, I'd find it. But Scout, so that's one reason is that a company has no money, right? Which is what I think happened. I don't know the full details, but that's my guess. Hypothetically, I want to make that crystal clear. The other reason is that founders want to take an exit, right? Or want capital out of the business. So if you, me, and our good friend Paul Gomez all form a company, we're all 33% owners, and then we build a company and we have equity, but we haven't taken a salary, it could very well be that we decide at some point to go sell to a holding company XYZ and they want to buy 10%. So and they want to buy it for $1 million, 10%, right? So the company's valued at 10 million, right? And we all decide to sell 10% equally divided among us because we want to each cash out $333,000, right? As an exit, but we still maintain 90% control. So we each maintain 30%. But we just want to take the money off the table and we want to have a decent exit, right? Or that's what happens on top of our salary, right? So but I don't think that's what happened with Scout. I don't think the founders wanted to sell their equity and they didn't need a bonus, right? I don't think that's what it was. I think it was the first thing where they ran out of money. So that's why I think the whole thing with comics is a nightmare. Because you say companies have already started going out of business. Scout is on that chopping block without a doubt. And then wasn't there like another one that did all those movie promos?
IDW. IDW's losing big.
They're losing, but I thought they just turned it around a little bit.
Really? I thought they lost Star Wars, My Little Pony. They lost Hasbro to Skybound, G.I. Joe.
I thought they still have My Little Pony. I thought that they still have Star Trek.
Not for long. Not for long.
I think that they still have. I mean, they have Sonic the Hedgehog. They got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought they still have My Little Pony. I know they lost G.I. Joe and Transformers, but I think they still have Dr. Who. I think that no, Doctor Who went to Titan. I'm sorry.
Did it?
Um, it did. It did. I like Titan as a company. I think Titan's a cool company.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they did Cowboy Bebop. It was fun, and I wanted more. I wanted more. It's a shame with the Netflix stuff and everything. I thought Cowboy Bebop was a winner for Netflix.
I
But,
never
but
saw it. Same thing. I never saw.
I mean, it was a live action one with John
Uh,
Cho and a few other people. It's great. It's 8 episodes. It's fun. But that's just it. The comics were fun, right?
mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Naruto and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That book, that's just going to be fun. That's just going to be fun. And I'm so excited for it.
Hmm.
And that's what comics need to be. They need to
Yeah.
be fun. Make comics fun again.
Yeah,
Like
they've lost a lot of that lately, where everything is just so super serious all the time, and it's just it's becoming a chore. I don't think I've bought.
I don't really want to see Optimus Prime cry. I really don't need to see that. It's fun the first time, but after like 15 of them, it's not fun anymore. But I
I've
will
heard.
say this: Transformers and My Little Pony, those crossover books, awesome. Awesome. It's so ridiculous. It's so wonderful. And it's so enjoyable to see Megatron trying to shoot at like fucking Rainbow Dash. It's so enjoyable.
I did hear Transformers 1 is a good one. Is a good movie.
I didn't see it yet.
I didn't either, but I heard
My
it's good.
Hasbro stock is doing great though, apparently. Hasbro is actually turning itself around, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
I'm a long-term investor. But no. I spoke way more on that topic because I'm more interested in it. But yeah, but we've been speaking for a while, and I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, check you out, see what you're doing? Back the projects. They're in the notes. They're in the notes. Both the backer
Yeah.
kit and the Kickstarter are in the notes. So if you're looking for that project, everybody, I got you covered. So that's it. So where can people check you out and everything?
Laughing Rogue PA on Twitter, Laughing Rogue on Facebook. That's pretty much where I'm at, or I'm doing Monday nights at 9 o'clock with Big Sexy Outdoors. I'm usually around on somebody's show, just hanging out and BSing. I'm going to start getting back online more because that's honestly my weakest point is self-promotion, which is why I appreciate things like this.
No, I appreciate having guests, and I'm going to keep saying it. You have to support people, and what that means is you got to check out what they're doing, whether they're running a Kickstarter, a backer kit, an Indiegogo, a Zoop, a crowdfunder, running their own funnels, Fund My Comic, all that stuff. And then you need to follow them on social media, which is X, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whatever else they're on. If I miss one of those things, everybody knows all the social media platforms. Threads. I don't know if anybody's on Threads. I don't really get Threads, but that's fine. It's neither here nor there. But again, you got to support people that way. And then as far as I'm concerned, everything that I'm doing, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X, Pop Anime Comics on the Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel called Pop Anime Comics. We got a lot of fun stuff coming out in October, which is a few days away, the 20th, 2020, 21st, 22nd. I can't remember the exact date, but you can hear a lot of my old interviews. And I got a lot of content that I'm going to be editing that has not been released. That's probably going to come out in 2025. So I got some old school stuff from a few years ago that I'm definitely excited to release. So it's some good stuff, and that's kind of the big deal here. So that's everything that I got going on. And then I do run an eBay store. So look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay. And I have a very, very expensive card set right now on eBay. And I believe I'm the only one who has one of them up. It is a 38 rookie NFL card set of the top rated rookies from the 2024 draft with a 1/1 parallel in it. So the reason why this set is expensive for those who are interested is set sold out in about 3 minutes. Bought two of them. It's a $200 set when it first came out. I'm asking $900 for it because you're getting a one-on-one card. And I think it is a pricey set. I am not expecting it to sell very quickly. And I'll be honest, if I pull a Bo Nix or a Monique Neighbors or, Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, and I pull any of those doubles, I'm canceling somebody's order if they don't buy it. And you're not getting those cards because that price will go up significantly. So I get it. You're running a risk, everybody, but it's an expensive set. It's expensive, and I pulled some rare stuff, and the only comparable set is the WNBA, a 14 card rookie set, and somebody's asking 800 for that. So this is big boy card collecting. So if you're looking for that stuff, but I also carry things like this in my store, which is about $100 card. This is about $150 card. And then I carry stuff like this, which is a base relic. So that's about a $170 card from the Rickwood game. So I carry stuff like that. But then I also carry comics like this and this in my store. So yeah, and those aren't expensive. And then I carry stuff like this. I have all 15 of those. I have all 15 of these. And then I carry cool stuff like this, which is a $30 card. But I also carry $8 cards too. So, if you're just looking for cards and you're looking for some, cheap cards, I got those. If you're looking for expensive stuff, I got that too. And I like to hit every position. And I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. If there is something you're looking for and it's not in my store, I may have it or I may have something similar to it. And if I don't have it, chances are I know somebody who does. And I had a client, he was looking for something. I hooked him up with what he needed. And then I introduced him to another person. And then he got what he needed. And he didn't even know he needed a product until I hooked him up. He's like, oh, dude, thanks so much for actually putting me in contact and getting me somebody's cell phone number. So the deal could have worked out. And then I made my friend money and my buyer got money. And then my buyer came back to me. So to buy some other stuff and never gave me a hard time. And I was like 3 weeks later, he's like, dude, you hooked me up with something. I don't care if you're 6 months late. It was great. I said, dude, I don't want this because if there's a fire in my house, I want you to have your book. And then my house will it's perfectly fine. I'll make marshmallows knowing you have your book. And we had a good chuckle on that. And he said, I hope your house didn't burn down. I said, don't worry. I had extra graham crackers.
Yeah. And Cena's on his retirement tour, so you're going to have to get that card quick.
I mean, I might raise it up. Mm-hmm. And thanks for reminding me. Everybody, the price just went up by $5. Thank you, Chris.
Retirement tour. That's what we do.
I actually have number 2 out of that card. I have the second out of that card. That's a personal card. But anyway, I digress. That's something that I got going on. And enough about me. And I'm going to give you the final word.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Stay honest and have fun. It's really the best thing you can do.
And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is